Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Sunday, September 24th, 2023, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Now Mind You podcast. This is episode 84, Combat. We're your hosts. I'm TJ.
I'm Matt.
I'm Bryce.
And as far as the docket is concerned today, we'll be going over UFC Fight Night Fiziev versus Gamrot that occurred last night, and Matt will take us into Zepeda versus Hitchins, which also occurred last night as well. Without wasting any further time, let's get into it. So for UFC Fight Night Fiziev versus Gamrot, on the main card we have Hamosh versus Jourdain. At featherweight, we had Battle versus Fletcher. At welter, we had Rodriguez versus Waterson Gomez. At women's strawweight, we had Mitchell versus Ige at featherweight, and of course, we had the main event at lightweight, which is Fiziev versus Gamrot. Bryce, kick us off with Hamosh versus Air Jourdain.
Sure, let's go into Hamosh versus Air Jourdain. Frankly speaking, man, this was a good fight to start off the card. It was a nice showing from both. Hamosh's fighting style is very interesting. It's very kick oriented. Apparently he's like really big on like spinning kicks, which Jourdain had to like go through by kind of being more direct.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say Hamosh, from what I remember, he was very aggressive. I guess in a way to counter Jourdain's forward approach, he wanted to do more takedowns, and Jourdain was very heavy on catching the neck. And so, it was a round one submission win for Jourdain because Ramos came in for a takedown and Jourdain capitalized. He actually got him beforehand and had him in a neck crank for a little bit, but Ramos got out of it. But later on, once again, he got caught up in it and Ramos had to submit. It was a very good showing. Yeah, it was just I would say Jourdain probably had he was more bigger problem on the feet. And he could just take advantage on the ground as well. I like my numbers. Total strikes, Jourdain had 8 out of 10. Significant strikes, he had 8 out of 9. In Hamosh's case, he had 0 out of 10 total strikes, 0 out of 9 significant strikes, and he had 2 out of 3 takedowns. And of course, Jourdain had one submission attempt, and it worked. So it was a good showing. I'm guessing Hamosh's style thing was like, yo, I got to get him to the ground, but it just didn't work out in his favor. But it was a good fight, and like I said, it was a good way to open up the card. And so now we go into the welterweight fight: Brian Battle versus AJ Fletcher. TJ, want to cover this one?
Yes, but before we do, I have some things I want to add to Hamosh versus Jourdain. Basically, Jourdain just told all the featherweights, like, hey, I'm not just hands. I got some high-level grappling, too, because let's be real, Hamosh is a high-level jiu-jitsu black belt, and Jourdain out-grappled him, like, out-scrambled him, and was able to secure that guillotine and make him pay. And it looked tight as fuck. Like, one thing that I think we need to highlight, too, is what Jourdain did, right? Typically, when people hit guillotines, especially off of their back, there's a risk, like if you rest yourself on your back and your shoulders come down, you make it easier for the person's head to pop out. And Jourdain was like, oh, you trying to pop your head out real quick, let me use my chin to cover your head. And that's how he got the tap, because that shit looked tight. Also, I also want to highlight that in that initial guillotine attempt, you saw that Jourdain wasn't letting the net go, but he was also doing a good job of making Hamosh worry about Jourdain tangling him up in a closed guard. Because typically it's like, all right, if you get guillotined, you're trying to hop over into some type of side control, cross-side position, because it kind of negates the effect of the choke. And Hamosh was doing the right things, but Jourdain was actually doing a really good job of repositioning his hips to make sure the guillotine was still a threat, even in a situation where it shouldn't have been a threat. So very good grappling on Jourdain's part. That's all I want to add. Bryce, you pretty much hit everything else, though. Battle versus Fletcher. This was at welterweight, as Bryce mentioned. We had Brian Battle, who was coming off of like a KO victory, and then AJ Fletcher, who, for what it's worth, he's quite stocky.
Yeah,
He's definitely a shorter fighter, and like he doesn't necessarily look like he belongs in welterweight. But I mean, you're going to be dealing with a lot of taller folks, and I have to say, Brian Battle is low key kind of built like a One Piece character.
yeah.
You funny as
Uh,
hell.
and and he has a Shenron back tattoo, which is like, all right, well, you better win. And for some reason, with the frosted tips, he gives me like Brazilian fighter energy. Also, um, listen, first round,
Yeah.
AJ definitely had his moments. But you saw that Brian Battle was kind of putting on a bit of a master class at the start of controlling the distance with just using the foot jabs, the teeps. But then AJ had his moments as well where he was able to bridge that gap. And man, he dropped Brian Battle down with a very crisp elbow from within the pocket, and he definitely
Yeah.
stole that first round. Round two, we saw a different Brian Battle come out of the corner because it looked like the download phase was over and we just saw aggression. It wasn't just teeps and then we punched them when they decided to come into our range. It was teeps and punches, hands and feet. And before you know it, he's scrambling over onto Fletcher's back. And then he just cinches what was initially a guillotine attempt, transitions to a back take, transitions into half guard. Then he just gets the back once again and finishes off with a rear naked choke. It was a very good showing for both fighters. Like a very, very good showing, but Battle proved once again that he's here to get finishes. That's what I have to say. Bryce, do you have any initial thoughts or additional thoughts, I should say, on this battle?
Yeah, I think you pretty much covered it. That elbow to when off that cage, that drop battle was crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It was literally a David Goliath moment.
Yeah. Every time I see Battle in the cage, it always takes me a minute to recognize him because every time he comes in the cage, he looks completely different.
He's like Cheeto.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it was a solid fight. It was great. Looks like Battle's trying to make a point. He definitely said he's the baddest motherfucker in the division. You got dropped this motherfucking fight, sir. I do like you.
Let's work on that defense.
Yeah, just work on that defense. I do want to see. I do see him kind of climbing the division. He's a fun fighter to watch. Yeah, good all around. Okay, well,
yeah, go ahead, bro. I'm here if you
I just
need
want
me.
to say, so yesterday I was watching this live, and I wish there was a camera on my face to see the changeover from how this fight went. This particular fight, women's strawweight battle, Marina Rodriguez versus Michelle Waterson Gomez. This was it was not it was gruesome. Michelle Waterson Gomez got heart. Karate Hottie got goddamn.
That's
heart.
a red flag, y'all.
I'm gonna say that first and foremost.
That's a red flag, y'all. Spoiler alert.
Listen, I just just want to make sure that is known. She got heart.
Oh damn, bro.
Cause it looked like you fed somebody to a beast. Marina came in there. She has the Muay Thai experience. She has the length and the strength, and she absolutely dominated Michelle Waterson. I was screaming at the ref to stop the damn fight.
Throw the damn towel.
Throw the towel, fam. Michelle started off great. She her plan clearly, which I completely understand in retrospect, was to get Marina off her goddamn feet and keep it to the ground. And it was good. And then Marina got up and Michelle caught that first knee, and she just kept catching them knees and them hands and them elbows in the clinch. It didn't matter. It got to a point where, like, I felt like she got stunned. Like, she was definitely out of it. She's just holding her hands to her face, and then she would run away. And then
the body language was not great, man.
Yeah, and then Marina would catch up to her and do it all again. And she got a nasty. I think it was the first knee that caught her. She got a nasty cut from the knee. I think it was to the side of the side of her right eye. It was so bad, it was gushing so bad that the doctor had to come in. But I guess the blood smear just made it look crazier than it actually was, and they just kept going with the fight, which was even crazier.
Doesn't sound like Bryce agreed with that.
Let me just put it to perspective. How this fight went. Michelle Waterson, she had 16 out of 37 total strikes. She had 13 out of 32 significant strikes, and she had 1 out of 6 takedowns. Marina Rodriguez had 90 out of 130.
We don't need to know. We don't need those numbers. We saw it.
70 out of 102 significant
it,
strikes. And then 1 out of 1 takedown. That's right. The fight did end because she got a takedown. I completely forgot about
she reversed Waterson's like inside trip attempt. Yeah. Like pushed her back against the cage with her hips and ended up on top.
And it was already fucking
gruesome ass fight. Yeah.
Yep. It was gruesome. There were times like I said, I was just like, yo, ref, stop the fight. This is crazy. She got heart. Michelle Waterson got fucking heart. And nobody could take that from her. That's
a eulogy.
Not the fight. This was not the fight. This was not it. This was the start of like the end, like the down slope of gruesomeness that this card was in the later fights. So I'm gonna pass it on. TJ, do you have any comments about this fight? I know we've been going back and forth.
Oh, I know. We said this before we started recording, but Marina was grabbing Michelle's head and kneeing her.
Bruh.
Repeatedly. Like, if that can happen, there is no reason for this fight to go on. Like, I wonder if the ref was just like, I don't want anybody to say that it was an early stoppage, but it's like, come on, bro.
Face, knees. She was killed over sometimes. She's just holding her face, and she got heart for keeping going. But it's just
she's got a daughter, bro. Like, you know what I mean? It's like why are we doing this? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't.
She's won 1 out of her last 7.
It's time. It's time to call it or to get cut, because you can't.
She got cut.
They released her that night?
No, I'm talking about her face.
Oh, you bogus hell. You out of pocket. You out of pocket.
At least I'm not wilding.
Oh, you wilding.
No.
You are wilding, man.
That standard has been set too high today.
Guilty.
TJ on the same goddamn boat.
Listen to the manga episode if you don't know what Matt is referring to.
Wow, y'all both wilding today. I'm the sensible one. How does that make sense?
All right. For the sake of time, though, because we are in a bit of a time crunch, I'll go into Bryce Mitchell versus Dan Ige. Okay, I'll say this. Considering Bryce Mitchell's last performance, this is not how I expected this fight to go on paper.
Yeah.
Am I wrong, yo? Like, because like you look at Mitchell versus Topuria, aka Heavy Hands McGee, like Topuria kind of demolished him and then caught a sub on Bryce Mitchell. So I was like, all right, I thought like Heavy Hands 50K, I'm gonna get that bonus. Ige would have had the answer for Mitchell, but I guess Mitchell came in with that chip on his shoulder and a Bible in his hands. And by the way, I wouldn't touch that Bible. We know what that nigga does with his hands.
We know what he be up to.
Right. Like, hey, I know what thug nasty actually fucking means. But anyway, I digress. Gruesome battle. All right. Okay. So spoiler alert, Bryce Mitchell won the unanimous decision. Matt, honestly, I don't even like really giving this to him, but it's like it was a masterclass of grappling.
It was.
This is what Michelle Waterson should have been doing.
They need to hook up.
Yeah, like it's honestly what she should have been doing in her fight against Marina Rodriguez, because Mitchell was like, from jump he had Dan Ige worried about the level changes. Now, I will say Ige did a hell of a good job in that first round of passing the first test, but where Ige was good at defending the first takedown, he was bad at defending the subsequent takedowns. And Mitchell is known for being relentless, for going shot after shot after shot. And then, bro, his flexibility is kind of dumb. Like, I don't know how else to explain it, because he was able to hit. Okay, in jiu-jitsu grappling, you would normally go maybe mount, all right? Maybe you let's say you get like close guard, transition to mount, close guard, transition to the back. Bryce Mitchell was constantly transitioning between mount and the back mount, which is kind of crazy to do. There's usually like an in-between step there, and he was able to just do it because his grappling is just that good. Dan Ige, I'll give it to him on defense, but you don't win by defense. Hey, ask Thug Rose. But it's like it's like I'm sorry. I don't know what's happening to me today. But yeah, man, like Mitchell just fucking dominated the whole thing. But for the gruesomeness, Dan Ige's hands did some fucking damage to Mitchell's eye. Again, this was another situation where the fight had to be stopped and the doctor brought in because there was a cut below the eye, a cut above the eye. I'm referring to Bryce Mitchell's right eye, and it looked like the shit was what. It didn't look great. It did not look great at all, but he was able to eke out the win. I don't know. It was just a dominant performance for Bryce Mitchell. Dan Ige, let's see what his record is looking like right now. He won his last two, and then he just lost his one. I feel like he had an L before his fight. Yeah, he lost against Evloyev. Yeah, I don't know. I'll pass it back to you, Bryce. What'd you think?
Okay. You know, let's keep it a buck. The jiu-jitsu was the difference because Ige dotted Bryce Mitchell's fucking eye. I thought he was gonna lose that motherfucker.
He wasn't even really trying to. He was showing the patience and discipline that we had seen from him in the last few bouts that brought him back into the 50K bonus claimer. You know what I'm saying? But it's like you said, the jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. I think Mitchell mentioned that like he was sick in the fight beforehand, and he was like really came in here trying to prove something. He fucking did it. And I just want to say that there's a big difference between what happened with Mitchell and Ige and Waterson and Marina. There was, because Marina was so damn tall. I said it before the podcast. It was like watching a mantis grab onto a bug and just like hold it and eat it.
I think that's an apt comparison. Like,
yeah,
you just had to see it, y'all. It was.
I have to see it.
It was just.
Don't even watch the whole thing. Watch. You will get
Yeah.
A good 30 minutes. No, good 30 seconds. Jesus. Damn. What?
All I said was damn.
Okay.
Damn, Khalil, relax.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Bryce did a great job. You know, he a weird dude. Bryce a weird motherfucker, but God damn, he's
leave it alone, Matt.
Okay. But you know, he did his thing. It was so weird, the last part of it, like the post-fight interview. I just think we're gonna
I cut it off after. I was like, I don't need to hear what he has to say.
But yeah, he did a great job. I think this definitely put him back into the conversations in regards to just kind of climbing up the division and getting him bigger opponents. Yeah, solid. It was just fucking solid. Phenomenal. He had the first round for sure. I gave the second arguably to Ige, but I felt like he kind of came back in the last part.
I think Bryce kind of stole it from him.
Yeah. And then third round, once again, he's just on top of Ige. So yeah. Solid on Bryce's part, solid on Ige's part. Just that jiu-jitsu made a world of difference. Okay. So we're going into the main event. Lightweight battle. Rafael Fiziev versus Mateusz. Did I do that? Did I say it right?
Mateusz Gamrot.
Lightweight battle. This, like, the first round, just going right into it. The first round was very competitive. Like, it was very back and forth. Fiziev caught him with I want to say like a nice 3-piece. It was like 2 to the body, 1 to the head.
It was so fucking fast though.
So it was so fast and so clean. Oh man, it was beautiful. Gamrot, he had his. I think Gamrot was they were kind of afraid to really go in. You know what I mean? They were just picking their shots, so I couldn't really get anything from that first round. I don't know how you felt about that, TJ, but I couldn't get anything much. It was even. Then the second round started happening, and the hands started to move a little bit more. But before anything really got to happen, 2 minutes in, Fiziev throws a kick. Gamrot, it looks like he blocks it with his elbow, and when Fiziev went back on to put his weight on it, it buckled somehow. He got an injury, and Gamrot kind of closed in on him. I don't even think he needed to do that, but he did, and got the TKO win. Hopefully Fiziev, we get some later reports about his injury. But I mean, it was a solid, it's disappointing. I don't really think they got to really get into it much. It reminded me of Curtis versus Aspinall in that way. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on the main event. Very gruesome fucking card. Very gruesome.
I agree, and if you don't mind me interjecting and giving my thoughts on this main event too, I thought that this was interesting, especially on the first round, because it looked like we had 2 speedsters who are speedsters in 2 different areas of the game. Fiziev with the striking, and then Gamrot with the grappling. Because the way the speed was comparable, the way Fiziev throws his striking combinations and the way Gamrot throws his shots, it's like, oh, these motherfuckers are fast. Like fast. Because the way, and then we got to give props to Fiziev's takedown defense, because he was scrambling. It wasn't, and I don't say scrambling like he was scared. I mean scrambling he was in the middle of the scramble. I don't know how to explain it. Think a Looney Tunes dust cloud fight. He was in the mix. He wasn't getting thrown out. No, he was in the mix and coming out without being taken down.
Yeah, that's right. He was not going. He's like, nope.
Yeah, he's like, no, we doing this. You want to rumble? We finna rumble, bro. You ain't gonna toss me out.
I think he died for him because he almost had him. Fiziev jumped out of it. He was
yeah.
Just died for him. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, he's been working on his grappling too. I say for the first round it was pretty even, but I want to say Fiziev may have edged out Gamrot just because of the striking combinations. But second round, I think what it was is he blew his knee out because he didn't pivot. So if you look at
that's what you said.
How Fiziev threw the roundhouse and Gamrot blocked it, his front foot, his left foot, the base foot, is still pointing forward instead of his hips turned over to the side. So as a result of that momentum not being properly distributed or properly dissipated, all that torque went to his knee and it just could not handle it. That's why as soon as he sat back down, it was like, oh fuck. This is why we need to pivot on our roundhouses, because shit like that happens. That's low key. Well, I don't know if it's, I feel like for Aspinall it was similar, but also a footing issue where he stepped back and put his knee in that awkward position. But Cater, Calvin Cater, right? Remember when he did? Who was he up against? It was against Emmett. Was it against Josh Emmett where he fucked up his knee?
I don't think it was. I feel like it was somebody else.
You know what I'm talking about, because it was.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Too. It's same thing. He went for that flying knee, landed in an awkward situation. It's knee injuries fucking suck. But for all you martial artists out there, please pivot, because you do not want to jeopardize your fucking knee. Please.
Arnold Allen.
Yes, it was against Arnold Allen. You are. Yes, thank you for that, man. Yeah. Please pivot, y'all. Even if you're doing a jump kick, just act like you're pivoting in the air so you land safe. Pivot, please. That's all I got to say.
All right. Well, I I guess I'll pick up from here. We had our boxer, Bryce. We will bid you adieu, my guy.
I have a good one.
Thank you so much, Bryce.
Later. Peace.
Peace.
This week I will be covering the Zone's show. They just had a headlining show yesterday, which would be Saturday, September the 23rd. And it was Hitchins versus Zepeda. On the Hitchins versus Zepeda card, we had hold on, I'm gonna make sure I get everybody's name right. Yeah, Emma Williams versus Steve Rolls. We also had Jessica McCaskill versus Sandy Ryan. We had our main event, which was Hitchins and Zepeda, like I mentioned earlier. We also had a surprise addition to the card that came, at least that was announced a few days before, which was Conor Benn was making his return to the ring. And he was going up against Rodolfo I cannot say this guy's name. Orozco. Orozco. I'm so sorry. I know I just butchered this man's name. And this guy's tough as hell, as I'm going to tell you guys about in a little bit. So the first fight we had, Emma Williams versus Steve Rolls. Emma Williams and Steve Rolls was held at 160 pounds. Emma is 27. He's from Houston, Texas. Southpaw. Like I said, they fight at 160. Pretty much has made a name for himself here recently. Young guy coming up on the DAZN promotion, still undefeated. And he was coming off of a TKO victory in the O2 Arena against River Wilson. And, he pretty much was looking to continue his winning ways. And he was looking to pick up the IBF North American middleweight title from Steve Rolls. If the name Steve Rolls sounds familiar, it's because Steve Rolls has been around for a while. Steve Rolls, I would say, came into a little bit more of an American domestic prominence when he fought Triple G a few years ago, and here recently stateside having a fight against Edgar Berlanga back in March of 2022. He was able to take Edgar Berlanga to a unanimous decision, and in a lot of ways, and to a lot of critics, just based off the performance he was able to give against Edgar Berlanga, it rose a lot of questions about, if Edgar Berlanga was all hype or, so on and so forth. And this is a young guy, 26 years old. Steve Rolls on the other end, came into this fight 39 years old. But what I at least will say on his side towards that, like as far as Father Time is undefeated. He's not a guy that has taken a lot of damage. He has a decent amount of stoppages on his record. And the only time he had ever been stopped was when he fought Triple G. This guy hasn't gone down, he doesn't touch the canvas, stuff like that. I mean, and he's generally style-wise, he's a good boxer. So Emma Williams is a southpaw. Steve Rolls is orthodox. And what on paper was supposed to be, I wouldn't even say a walkover fight for Emma Williams, but this fight was set for Emma Williams to win. 27 years old, undefeated, going against the 39-year-old coming off of a win after having like a pretty tough loss against Edgar Berlanga, unanimous decision. It's a power puncher, And this fight was more of a challenge for Emma Williams than I believed he was expecting it to be. He was very confident early on. I'm not to say that he lost any confidence, but he was very confident early on. He was controlling a lot of the early rounds, and Steve Rolls was able to kind of cut it on a little bit more on the back end and create a bit more of a competitive fight. He kept finding a home for the straight right hand. Ammo, when he was using the jab, was using it pretty effectively. If I had to be critical of him in any way, I would just say he was throwing a lot of really big shots, winding up a little bit more than I think he wanted to. It seemed like he was a bit anxious sometimes, like not anxious in the sense like he was nervous, but like he just really, really was trying to get that big shot. So he was just looking for it. And I felt like he could have made the fight a little easier for himself if he would have just used his jab more, and I think threw more combinations. He just threw a lot more bigger punches than I think he needed to. And the times when he would throw combinations, he was successful. And the criticism I would put on the side towards Steve Rolls, who I think really gave a very good account of himself in this fight, despite losing a decision to Austin Williams, Ammo Williams, was he was getting that straight right hand off. I just wished he would have brought the left hook over afterward.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? If you land a straight right, bring the hook. I don't know. That's just, me being in the gym all the time. So
the coaching, yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. But I thought that Steve Rolls defensively was pretty sound. He was taking a lot of shots, but he wasn't eating a lot of them, if you catch my drift. He was definitely taking a lot of shots on the gloves and on the arms, and he was getting busted up a little bit, like I said, with the jab, and which is why I kind of wanted Ammo to stay with it, and he abandoned it eventually. And there were at some points in the fight, that, they were having exchanges, and I would say Steve Rolls won a handful of those exchanges. Clearly not enough to win the decision, but it was a hard fought fight for Ammo Williams. It was a lot harder than it probably needed to be, and despite the fact that Steve Rolls lost, this was a fight that he can definitely at least walk away with his head held high about, because
right.
There weren't he made Ammo work. He did not give it to him. He made that young man really work for that. So the next fight on the card after that, we had Sandy Ryan against Jessica McCaskill. Yes, my teammate, that Jessica McCaskill. I was not in her corner this time. I thought I was going to be in her corner, but at any rate, I was not in her corner, but I was there. So I was still in her corner.
Mm-hmm.
We were all there to support her. And I felt like early on in the fight, Jessica McCaskill was getting a jab off, and she was really kind of controlling the space. And if I'm going to be completely objective, I think this fight somewhat stylistically comes down to, what do you like? Do you like more volume or power? You know what I'm saying? Are you more so, a person that's getting a bunch of shots off, or a person that's getting, the clean, heavy shots off, but not getting a lot of them off? And I think that this was just somewhat of a bad style matchup with each other in certain points. And I don't mean this in a negative way at all. I think there were definitely distinct advantages both women had. I thought Sandy Ryan had good foot movement. She was good. She just generally still kind of, to a degree, has an amateur style. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I mean that in the sense that she stays on her toes a lot more. And I think that she could have found more success if she would have maybe tried to sit down on a few more of her shots.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like she allowed Jessica to kind of control the center of the ring more than she made. I felt like she just should have took a few more risks. I'll just say that.
Right. Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair.
Jessica was controlling the center of the ring. I felt like later on she didn't continue to keep her jab going, and I felt like there was more opportunity for her to go up the middle with the body shots, as opposed to going around on the side, because she was, though she would get both off, it felt like more often than not she was getting the inside shots off. The tighter, crisper punches were getting it. Sometimes Jessica can be a bit slappy with some of her shots, and other times she could turn them over a little bit, which in a really weird way makes fighting her a really unpredictable scenario, because you don't know. It's damn near like fighting a Diaz, because like, am I gonna get slapped or am I gonna get punched? And both is gonna hurt. Like,
right.
The difference is her slap is a fist. Her hand is closed.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Ultimately, but at the end of the fight, I thought it was very close, but the fight came down to a draw. One of the judges had it 97-93 in favor of Jessica. Another judge had it 96-94 in favor of Sandy. And the final judge had it 95-95. After that, we had one of our featured bouts. We had Conor Benn versus Rodolfo Orozco. And let me tell you something. I don't know where they found Adolfo, I don't know what he was motivated by. I don't know what they paid him. What I know is this dude was not like that motherfucker there is not real. That dude was a monster.
What?
No, listen to me. I watched Conor Benn hit this dude with the kitchen sink. He blasted this dude out with like everything. His knees did not even so much as buckle. Like fully getting your head twisted from hooks and shit and just being like, no. This dude just
like,
was
no,
that's
Broly?
Not enough.
Are you
Yo,
Broly?
Right. Are
like...
you Broly? Listen, this was a comeback fight for Conor Benn. It was a surprise feature bout, given all of the controversy and stuff that it surrounded him previously, and things that he has since been vindicated from for the most part, right?
Right.
And he was able to pull a points victory decision over Rodolfo. But let me explain something. Rodolfo made him work. We've seen the Korean zombie. I don't know what kind of zombie this dude is. Conor Benn's been out of the ring for about 18 months, right?
Mm-hmm.
This guy made him work all 10 rounds of this fight. It did not matter what power punch Ben hit him with, and he was going upstairs and downstairs. I mean, he was making this dude miss and really, really, really making him pay, like with interest.
Yeah.
And dude was just like, cool, I have more. Like, it was insane. There was definitely like, he took damage. He had a handful of cuts, but like, considering the amount of punches he took and considering what those shots looked like, if you see what this guy looks like post-fight, it's like, wow. You know what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't look like he took that much damage. This dude was just that tough. He had about 3 cuts. They ultimately he got around his eyes, just shit from punches and things like that. His hand speed wasn't necessarily there the entire time, so there were definitely opportunities, which is why there was a lot of make him miss, make him pay. There were opportunities for Conor Benn, slips and hooks and rolls and things of that nature. But he was able to be he was able to find some success with some body work, so much so that I felt like he won about 2 rounds kind of in the middle of the fight.
Yeah.
Granted, it ultimately was like, no matter what Conor Benn did, this guy never stopped marching forward. I actually be really excited to see this guy come back, to just see him fight, different opposition. See what else he could have to offer against, maybe a different guy. Because, man, this was a fight. I mean, like, if the people wanted their money's worth and whether they felt like they got it that night or didn't, they definitely got it if they saw that one. That was there's a lot of volume in that fight. And especially for like volume from a power puncher. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And for this guy to still be standing and I mean, not only just standing, like actively trying to fight back.
Right.
Like he never relented, he never wilted, and he never once stopped marching forward. It was really pretty crazy.
A chest x-ray will reveal that he had that dog in him.
There was a lot of canine in the blood, bro. Vada, he might get popped by Vada for the canine blood. Like, yo, what's in this guy's system? Because dude was really like that. I'm not gonna lie. In our main event, we had Richard Hitchins versus Jose Zepeda. I also just want to say real quick, because I was down there for the fight and I saw some of the merch he has. I thought it was really clever that he has a t-shirt with his name Hitchins, but it's HIT and it's a fist in the middle and then chins, like hit chin, because it's really his last name. The dad joke in me loved that. Oh my God, it was great. I thought that was a great shirt. Just wanted to give him a shout out for that. Richard Hitchins is a young guy from Brooklyn, undefeated. I would say he's more of a boxer puncher, but this kid is fast. Like, he makes people that's fast look not fast. Like, it's really good hand speed. And Jose Zepeda is a guy who lost recently, but definitely not in not in any fashion that it was something he could put his head down about. He recently lost his title to what's this guy's name? I'm so sorry. He recently lost his title to Regis Prograis. In another fight that was crazy because Jose Zepeda just would not leave him alone. And that's, his style. He's pretty much classic Mexican style, come forward, and just never once gives you a chance to breathe. And Hitchins just was able to outbox him. He's able to use his foot movement and really just maintain his jab. Other than that, it was a pretty pedestrian fight, to be entirely honest. And I mean that from a casual entertainment perspective. Hitchins, all he did was just fight off of his back foot. He literally controlled this entire fight but with his jab almost. Just moved around, jab. There was some combinations that would get in here and there. I've definitely felt like he could have sat on a few more of his shots. Like he could have pressed the issue a little bit more, but he was not there when Zepeda would try to throw back. Every now and then he'd pepper a double jab, throw a right hook, throw a straight right hand. Every now and then he'd sit down on a 1-2, but it was just a lot of single shots at certain points, especially towards the back end of the fight. I felt like really by like round 8, 9, if he really would have pressed the issue, he really could have got Zepeda out of there because Zepeda wasn't really moving that well after round 8. But Zepeda, I felt, had given, like I said, a pretty good account of himself, even at this point prior to the final rounds of the fight, because he was fighting the same style the whole time, hands up, coming forward. So despite his movement slowing down, or even when he was moving backwards, it was pretty much the same thing. Like his guard, his demeanor never necessarily changed. So from that perspective, I understand Hitchins not taking a little bit more risk than he would have needed to. But overall, I felt like it was a bit of a pedestrian fight, but it was fine. That was our 12-round main event. Also in other boxing news, the Big Bang was heard again. Zhang was able to KO Joyce. Joe Joyce very brutally and almost, pretty much virally at this point within 3 rounds. Their rematch was set after the fight they had a few months back. Weili Zhang had stopped him then. And in some instances, people were calling it it was like, oh man, like it was an upset, obviously, right? It was a big deal. And Joe Joyce was trying to get that back because the belief was Joe Joyce was kind of on his way to being maybe another one of the top heavyweight guys, that could possibly be a challenger for a Tyson Fury or something like that, really get a big name fight. And man, Zhang came out there, and in that 3rd round, he threw a straight left hand to the body, which he kind of just threw light. And when Joe Joyce went to counter him, he just exploded with a hook. And man, he laid Joe Joyce out. Joe Joyce was able to get up at 10, but he got up literally right at the count of 10. And though he gave a bit of a bit of dispute towards that knockdown, trust me when I tell you, he was done. It would have been irresponsible of that ref to let that man continue to fight, because these are heavyweights at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying?
That's damage. Yeah.
It's not necessary. And not at that point. Weili Zhang, man, he did his thing. I didn't even mean for that to rhyme. And I'm just gonna say, like, I think we have these type of things that happen in combat sports, like, and it's happening again. You already know what I'm about to say, TJ. Like, China's making a splash right now in the world of combat sports. The 2 KO victories back to back on Joe Joyce coming off of Weili Zhang, and then Weili Zhang dominating her division the way that she's been doing. It's crazy. It's really crazy, man. Like, and now Weili Zhang is he's the interim WBO heavyweight champion. Like,
yeah,
he has a right to a title shot now.
Yeah.
You know who's the WBO champion? Tyson Fury. So he might have just skipped Joe Joyce in the line. So we'll see. I mean, not Tyson Fury, Usyk. Fury has the WBC.
Fury also is about to fight Ngannou next month, if I recall correctly.
Yeah. So we're gonna see what's gonna happen. But that concludes my portion of the combat sports, and that concludes combat sports this week. Thank you guys so much for checking us out this week. This has been another episode of the Now Mind You podcast. You can find me at Matt Hambrick. That's MattHambric, wherever you like to get your social media. TJ.
You can find me on Instagram at Tuss4Skate. Listen, brother, that's TUSS4_SKAT. And if you're looking for Bryce, where can you find him? On Instagram, my brother. All right. That's going to be at Ashe_Onca. So that's AXE_ONCA. Bay.
You better say the bay. And you can follow us at Now Mind You Podcast, wherever you'd like to get your social media or your podcast. Next week, we will be covering UFC Fight Night, Dawson versus Green. That's Grant Dawson versus Bobby Green.
Hold on. We might actually have a bye week, not to interrupt, because I think that's October 7th, if I recall correctly. Because I think we get a bye
you're
week.
correct.
Yeah,
you are correct.
Bye week, and then
it's October 7th.
we resume on October 7th. Yeah.
All right. So we will not be covering that, but what we will be covering is the boxing event next week. Canelo Alvarez versus Jermell Charlo.
Oh, they've been talking about that one on the streets.
This is going to be a big one. So we will be covering that next week, and we will see you guys there. Peace out.
Peace.